So today I have a great anime review for all of you. I have been waiting to review this for quite a while. The anime in question is called Parasyte the Maxim and it is very highly rated. It came out last year and ever since then people have been talking about it and giving it very good reviews. If you guys haven't seen the anime already and you want to stick around because I'm going to tell you why you should or should not watch Parasyte the Maxim. So Parasyte centers on a 17-year-old boy named Shinichi Izumi, and he lives with his parents in Tokyo, in a nice quiet neighborhood in Tokyo to be exact. Now one night, while everybody's sleeping, these parasite creatures, these worm-like parasites, drop down from Earth and invade the planet, and they sink their ways into the humans' ears and, control them. Now not every single human was affected by them, but the ones that did got controlled by them. The parasites took holds, and well, there's a lot of different stuff that happens because of that, and a lot of chaos ensues, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So without giving too many spoilers, I'm going to say that Shinichi was one of the people who was infected by a parasite. But it was a little different. The parasite that tried to infect Shinichi actually failed to get to his brain. It actually went in through his arm, and Shinichi saw something crawling up his arm and then just closed that shit off, and the parasite couldn't get to his brain. And the thing is, if a parasite can't get to your brain, you do not get controlled, so Shinichi should be alright. Right? Wrong. Instead, the parasite took hold of Shinichi's arm and became his arm, essentially, so now you have a parasitic arm that has a mind of its own. Many other things happen regarding Shinichi and his new arm, which we now call Migi, because I think that's actually the name for left arm in Japan. I think it's left or right, something like that. It's like a synonymous name with arm. And the entire anime has quite a lot going on beyond that point. And most of them do revolve around Shinichi and Migi protecting themselves from other parasites, which will lead into a lot of fights with parasites. And the parasites, they aren't just controlling humans, they have a lot of influence over the strengths and capabilities that they have. So it's not just like fighting some dude on the street, it's really like some intense fights. And yes, along with the fighting, there's a lot of blood, gore, and violence that also comes with it, so it's not necessarily for those of you who are faint at heart. The art style for the anime is very beautiful and visually appealing, especially for an anime based off of a manga that came out around 20 or so years ago. In fact, the manga for Parasyte came out in 1988, so for that to be made into an anime series in this day and age is absolutely great, and it just turned out very well. Now next I want to talk about two important things about this anime. Two very important things, one having to do with the plot, and another having to do with the music. Let's start off with the music, because the music for this anime was one that made me so happy. I never in my life thought that an anime was going to go at this extent for the musical score. Now for an anime like this that has a sci-fi feel to it, you can go a little bit off with the music and you can use something that's a little obscure, and it works perfectly. I wouldn't really say the anime's music is obscure, but instead they chose to use dubstep, and yes, if you know what this is, trap music, for some of the music in the anime. And I tell you, when you hear this music, it is just not eye-popping, but ear-popping, if that's a term. And it's really one of the bigger highlights of the anime. Now, everything else is great, mind you, but this is one of the highlights because I've never really seen an anime do this before. I've read online, I tried to look it up myself and see if there were other anime that did do trap music or dubstep. Some of them have. I've never heard of those, but this is one of the best ones to use dubstep and trap music, and it just sounds so good. Like seriously, one of those tracks I had to like go and just download that fucking OST just for that. It's just so good. And the other thing I want to talk about had to do with the story. Now for the story of Parasyte the Maxim, what we are faced with is a lot of questions about, well, just human characteristics and the quality of human life. Part of this is spoilers, part of this isn't spoilers, but I'm gonna split that up. Now, one of these plot points has to do with the question of what would you do if you were no longer the top of the food chain. Like, humans are seen as being the top of many food chains, but what if there was something threatening that? Something that was going to, you know, be able to devour you and your friends and your family. What would you do to fight back? And at what length would you go to do so? Now, the next plot point is definitely going to be a little spoilers, so I'm going to put a little bit of a timer right here. You can just go and go to that point in the video, and it will be spoiler free from that point on. So go ahead and click that if you want to, or if it's not clickable, just go and do it down below, and you can just go to the spoiler free part. But the next plot point has to do with losing yourself and making sure that you are who you really think you are. So yes, as I said before, Shinichi, his arm gets taken over, but at some point Migi starts to infect parts of his body closer to his brain, and Shinichi overall changes as a person, and his personality changes. He becomes much stronger, much more, you know, of a commanding figure, and he goes from being sort of like this nerdy person into being a lot more strong and, you know, independent. But at the same time, he sort of loses a lot of his emotional worth, and he starts to become more like the parasites that he's fighting against. And it's a big thing for about half of the anime to wonder if Shinichi's actually turning into a parasite himself and losing his humanity, or whether or not, you know, he just still has his humanity. It's just that he is, you know, influenced by Migi in some sort of way, and it's helping him out. I mean, you gotta figure it out, but at the end, they definitely do tell you. And then alongside that, you have to think to yourself of whether or not this is also something that affects others, as you see other parasites who themselves are starting to show emotional worth and starting to show their own emotions. Even with one character, Reiko Tamura, we see that she herself has a child as a parasite. And it just so goes to show that she does feel for that child, and it just goes to show that even if you can be a parasite, you could possibly have that emotional side to yourself, and it's just something that makes you think. The thought-provoking aspect of this anime is just one part of it that really makes it that much better. But enough about that. Parasyte is definitely an anime to check out because it's very highly recommended by many people, not just myself. It definitely goes deep into the psychological connection between human life and then again these parasites and their life, and it really makes you think about your own life in a certain aspect and how you would feel if you were in certain situations going on within the anime. And if you don't care about the psychological parts of an anime, then let me tell you this. Blood, guts, gore, and lots of violence is something that is riddled throughout this anime, besides the whole psychological stuff. And trust me, the fights are not only bloody and violent, but they also are very strategic, and I like that whole planned aspect of just thinking out your fights instead of just going in and trying to use brute strength the entire time. And with only 24 episodes, it's definitely something that I would recommend that you go ahead and check out. It's on Crunchyroll right now, and I might put a link in the description for you to go watch it. If you guys did see Parasyte the Maxim and you don't want to give any spoilers, then tell me what you thought about it in the comment section down below. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe for other anime reviews just like this one. And for now, it's me, NextLevelOtaku, saying stay gold, and I'll see you guys later.